Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. So, Jon Favreau's live-action Star Wars series that's coming to the Disney streaming service. That service is supposed to debut in the fall of 2019 in theory, and Favreau's series is supposed to be one of the things kicking it off. So, we still know very little about it in general. Just to give you the brief refresher, it takes place 7 years after the events of the Battle of Endor and Return of the Jedi. So we're talking 11 ABY, which also puts it, just to give you some more information, at about 15 years before the events of Star Wars Bloodline, the novel by Claudia Gray, which sees the founding of the Resistance. And that also puts it at 19 years before the events of The Force Awakens and subsequently The Last Jedi. We also know, again, just to catch you up, that it's going to feature all new characters and that the motion capture technology that he's used for the Jungle Book and will be using for the Lion King will be involved in this series as well. And a fun little coincidence, Simba in the Lion King remake that's releasing next year is played by none other than young Lando Calrissian, Donald Glover. Yeah, that's right. So interesting little connection there. And there was I don't even know where this comes from. There's no additional information. It was just a tweet by this website. They were saying that it's going to start production or eyeing a start to production in October of 2018, and don't have any idea where this is coming from. Obviously, they're not going to cite their sources, but they're not even saying, our inside sources are telling us. They're just saying, hey, we know that this is going to happen. And, I guess the timing is right. I mean, it has to get into production sometime relatively soon if it's actually going to be in the Disney streaming service in the fall of 2019. Whether it's really October, don't know. But, it's certainly as plausible as anything else, to be sure. But there's more information, and it's kind of come in through the side door, based on an article in the New York Times that was profiling the Disney streaming service's new chief of creative programming. And yeah, that's where the big new reveal information is coming from. The guy's name is Ricky Strauss, and previous to this, he was the head of marketing for Disney for 6 years. So he's got a really good track record as far as they're concerned. And now he's taken this thing on, and Star Wars is a part of it. So one of the things that got dropped into the article about the streaming service, and there's still very little even about the streaming service itself that's known yet, but one of the details had to do with Star Wars, and another bit of information that isn't really clear how it's sourced, but it's still rather remarkable all the same. And there's also a bit of commentary from Jon Favreau himself. In the article, it says, a live-action Star Wars series coming to the platform from Jon Favreau, the director of films like Iron Man and The Jungle Book, is expected to cost roughly $100 million for 10 episodes. Star Wars is a big world, and Disney's new streaming service affords a wonderful opportunity to tell stories that stretch out over multiple chapters, Mr. Favreau said in an email. He added of Mr. Strauss, marketing is about telling a story, and his background in that area allows us to collaborate and create new content, unquote. So $100 million for 10 episodes would make it one of the priciest series of all time. But hey, it is Star Wars, so if they're going to do this, they're going to do it right. I mean, I'm reading reports that it's about $15 million an episode for the final episodes of Game of Thrones, but those are also actually getting to be like feature-length movies. I think it was $10 million or so for a budget for the last season of Game of Thrones, which I think was really part 1 of a season, and this is part 2 of a season coming next year. Anyway, yeah, they're splitting hairs there. Ultimately, it is one of the most expensive series, if this budget is to be believed. Where they're pulling this number from is not clear at all. I mean, I don't think they're not saying that Jon Favreau said, oh, we're expecting the budget to be $100 million for 10 episodes. No, they're not saying that because they didn't say it in the article. So where they're getting that number is beyond me. But if it's true, I mean, even if it's close to being true, well, I think that's a rather awesome thing. It's not an indication that it's going to be good. I mean, throwing money at something isn't always an indication that something's going to be good. But the fact that Lucasfilm, and okay, I have to even back off saying the fact of that because, for all we know, this is supposition anyway, but the idea that Lucasfilm might be willing to spare no expense to make sure that this thing has all the resources it needs in order for it to be a success, well, I take that as a very good sign. And that right there is going to do it for the update. Almost for the update on the live action series. Over on the audio version of the podcast, we're going to get into spoiler territory with some reports from Making Star Wars about what the series could actually be about and where it might take place. But for here and for now, well, actually, I should just say also, hey, SW7x7.com/iTunes or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.